If you are from outside the European Union and want to enter the Schengen area, the reality is simple. Every time you cross an external border, there will be a biometric record of your entry, and when you leave, another of your exit. That system is called the Entry-Exit System, EES, and it works like a digital gatekeeper that replaces the stamp, calculates for you and for the authorities the famous 90 days in any 180-day period and stores the data long enough to remove any doubt about when you were and how long you stayed. And let's be clear, it isn't just modernization, it is the perfect infrastructure to normalize compulsory biometric verification first at the border and then wherever it's considered useful. Banks, rentals, government procedures, even large events. Today it's in the name of agility, tomorrow because it was already in place. On top of this comes ETIAS, a pre-travel authorization similar to the US ESTA that will start being required from 2026 for travelers from visa-exempt countries. And if you also fly to the UK, there is a British ETA with its own logic and its own app. Taken together, this marks the end of the grey zone many people relied on to stretch stays, change flights, or to enter through one country and exit through another, hoping no one will notice. For some, this sounds dystopian. For others, like inevitable modernization, I would call it phase 1. First, you get used to having everything recorded, then new layers arrive. Interoperability, health security, anti-fraud, and each layer adds more checkpoints. In this video I'm going to explain without sugarcoating or scaremongering what is changing, whom it affects and whom it doesn't, how to live without the drama, and how to build a mobility plan that protects you legally, fiscally, and personally in the coming years. EES is not a visa and not a pre-authorization. It is an automatic registry trigger at the external Schengen border when a third country national, that is, someone who is not a citizen of the European Union, nor of Iceland, nor of Liechtenstein, Norway or Switzerland, tries to enter for a short stay. Instead of a stamp, the system stores your photo, your fingerprints, and the exact date and place of crossing. When you leave, it records your exit. With those 2 points, the system calculates whether you have completed with the rule of 90 days within any 180 days, and if you haven't, it flags the violation. That's the essence, replacing paper and human memory with an objective counter. And yes, the information is stored. If you comply, it's kept for 3 years. If you overstay or if your exit is missing, it's kept for 5 years. This isn't a secret, it's in the regulation. For the traveler who does things right, the experience should be faster at congested borders. For those who used to get lost between stamps, the game is over. At least that's what say. The problem isn't the same as always. If the algorithm is wrong, a border it is not customer service desk. A false biometric match or an exit that wasn't registered properly can leave you stranded with a fix it later through slow channels. The asymmetry always lands on the traveler. Now a crucial clarification because social media is full of claims. EES doesn't apply to EU citizens, nor does it apply to those who hold a residency permit or a national long stay visa issued by Schengen country. If you are a resident in Spain, Portugal, Greece, Italy or Hungary, or if you are traveling with a Type D visa to stay longer than 90 days in a semester, EES is not your lane. Does that mean that you are invisible? No. It means your flow is different, with its own biometrics when you obtain the card, its own chip, its own document checks, but EES entry and exit records are not meant for you. This point dismantles a common myth in the comments. Now EES is going to count how many days a German citizen spends in Portugal or an Italian resident in Spain and the tax office will hunt them down. No. EES is not a per-country tax counter, it's an external border entry and exit registry for short-stay non-Europeans. Something different that does exist is the use of airline passenger data, PNR, passenger name record, which some states also apply to intra-EU flights for security reasons. But EES and PNR are not the same, so don't confuse them. EES switches on that external border. PNR is managed by the airline. It is another layer with a different legal regime and not every country uses the same way on internal flights. And here is the soft trap. Today they will tell you separate systems, tomorrow they interconnect them for your safety, and suddenly EES, ETIAS, PNR, SIS and national databases are talking to each other. That is function creep in real time. What was born for tourists ends up brushing residents and over time citizens. It has already begun rolling out progressively, and now from until April of 2026 full coverage will reach external area, sea and land crossings in the Schengen area. The rollout usually starts with the larger airports, the high traffic hubs, and then moves down to ports and roads. Now let's talk about ETIAS. Many people confuse it with a visa, and it is not. ETIAS will be a pre-travel authorization for travelers from visa-exempt countries, an online form you fill out before you fly with your basic data and some security questions linked electronically to your passport. Think of US ESTA or Canada's ETA, that's the right mental model. Europe will activate in 2026 with a fee that the Commission has upgraded to 20 euros and general validity of 3 years or until your passport expires. And for the UK, which is no longer in the EU, its own ETA is already operational. You request via app or website, it costs £16, I think. It lasts 2 years or until your passport expired, and it allows visits of up 6 months. Back to the fears, I have read comments saying this is the start of total control. Now they will know exactly where you are inside Europe, what websites you visit, what AI you use, how much money you have, and how to spend it. Let's take step by step. EES doesn't track your life inside the European Union. It records your crossing and the external border if you are not European and you come for a short period. For taxes, the golden rule is in software. It's your real life, where you sleep most of the year, where your family is, where your work is, where your permanent home is, where your center of interest lies. That defines tax residency, and if you change countries, tax agencies use 1,000 signals: rental contracts, consumption, cards, PNR flight data, municipal registers, school enrollments. EES doesn't turn a tourist stay into tax residency, and it doesn't detect you by country. Your actions do that. That said, the ecosystem is increasingly digital. PRR, anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism checks, administrative cooperation between tax authorities, the common reporting standard for financial information exchange, and even debates about central bank digital currencies. But none of those layers is EES or ETIAS. Don't mix them, please. The problem isn't the name of the system, it's convergence. Digital identity, electronic payments, and travel histories fit together like Lego pieces. Once they are joined, they can reconstruct your life without asking your permission. The official narrative will say efficiency and security. The result will be full traceability. If privacy concerns you, and it should, the ask one isn't to deny reality, but to operate within the law with a clear plan. If you want too long stays, get a Type D visa or residency permit. If you want to change your tax base, move for real, with proof. If your priority is minimizing friction, choose programs that demand less physical presence. If your priority is broader mobility, look at the well-known golden visas or naturalizing a new country to become a citizen. But accept that in the future, measures you won't like may arrive. And add a real plan B, a second residency outside Schengen, banking diversification, and offline copies of essential documents. Resilience is the only sensible response to a climate that is moving toward more control, not less. That idea of I will do 90 days in Italy, hop to Croatia because it doesn't count, come back and no one will notice, isn't a strategy, okay? It's blind faith. If you are not European, EES will see your entry into an exit from Schengen, not Italy or Germany, and it will count your total time inside regardless of your route. It also matters for taxes. I know, if you change tax residency, please do it for real. The alternative, living in one country while claiming you live in another, has never been a good idea because of EES. It has always been a bad idea, and every year brings more administrative cooperation, more information exchange, and more case law against that theater. If you are a professional, an entrepreneur, or an investor who wants to minimize friction, choose countries whose residency doesn't require 183 days to renew, avoid permits that ensure you without you noticing, and document for life. Lease, municipal registration, bills, healthcare, school supplies, and don't be naive. Although today EES doesn't cover you, the EU is working on database interoperability. If the political climate keeps tilting toward control, the net will be tightened over residents and citizens as well. I know people are uneasy about biometric data storage. You are neither the first nor the last to feel uneasy about handing over your fingerprints and face to an automated system, but it isn't exclusive to Europe. In the US, they take your photos and prints. In Argentina, they do it. In Thailand, China, and Turkey as well. The difference is that Europe, which for years worked with stamps and mental math, is taking the digital leap, and with the stories of the officer led me because I look honest disappear. The risk isn't being watched, it's being confused with someone else or having those data leaked. Historically, every major database ends up having incidents, and when the identifier is your face or your fingerprints, there is no possible password change. I'm being honest, it is the start of something that will get stricter, a massive layer of control not only for the non-EU nationals, but eventually for everyone. On the other hand, that idea of entering with one passport and leaving with another, forget it. Biometrics catch you now. They say it's for speed, but we know that it's for the massive control they want to implement, and the start it won't be fast. It will be very slow because there will be many problems. And don't forget the obvious. Those pre-authorizations are checked against watch list you don't control. One bad flag and you go from frequent flyer to suspicious traveler without knowing why. And yes, we can easily imagine being refused because on your Twitter, tied to a mandatory digital ID, you wrote that a certain government or a certain institution is very bad or very corrupt. As I always say, think the worst and you will often be right. And this is in science fiction, when identity, payments and travel are tied to one profile: what you say, where you go, where you buy, how much money you want, how much money you have, how much money you spend, where you spend your money. This is all together. Some say this looks like a dystopian model of the style of the UAE or Singapore, but without their benefits. Why? Because Europe is introducing digital controls, EES at the border, ETIAS as pre-clearance that increase surveillance and traceability of the traveler while keeping an ecosystem of high taxes, heavy social charge, and the cumbersome bureaucracy. In the UAE or Singapore, you accept cameras, biometrics, and pre-clearance, yes, but in exchange, you get much lighter taxation, ultra-fast procedures, a very high perception of safety, and a clear message to investors: come, operate, I won't get in your way. Europe, by contrast, seems to be moving toward the worst of both worlds. More control without offering the expected give back, negative taxes, not in regularity, simplicity, not always in safety. They ask you more data, more compliance, more money, more paperwork. They count your 180 days to the minute, they filter you before you fly, and even so, if you set a company or move capital, you face high marginal rates, high VAT, expensive contributions, and layers of rules that change mid-game. We also have to be realistic. Every country tends toward control. I won't be alive in 100 years, but I also don't think countries will be less regulated. Slowly, most will look like this. Starting from that control baseline, you choose what fits you best: culture, taxes, climate, people, geography, and so on. There are places in Europe with the best quality of life you will find anywhere, but we also need to admit that in certain countries and cities, everything is fragmenting. And yes, if you come from Venezuela, from Cuba, or a far more damaged place, Europe feels like a gift because their starting point is terrible. I believe Europe is a place where we should aim to keep a flag, maybe not citizenship, but at least PR, a renewable TR, or a golden visa, which they are slowly trying to complicate, so it's smart to move before it's too late. That's all for now. I want to know what you think, and if you need help securing a residency permit or reducing your tax burden, you can fill out the form in the description and we will take a look together.